man. Good.
This is it. Ooh, we're recording. It's like, oh, it's happening. Okay.
Oh, this is weird. Hi, I'm super excited today because I have Coach Chris here. Hi. You want to introduce yourself?
I'm Krystal. I'm in the same cohort with Kate at Adler University. We're both doing our dual degrees, so I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
If you want to learn more about her, follow her Instagram.
Yes.
I'll pop that up right here for you.
Coach_Chris.
So I've made a bunch of videos before and I feel like you're getting pretty sick of me talking a lot. So I wanted to bring someone else in to give a different perspective of what sports psych is, what mental skills coaching is like. And because she is a different ethnicity than me, I thought it'd be fun to see like what the different cultures think about mental health too. So I went to social media and I contacted some friends, some of my professors too, to talk about what common things that they see in the sports psychology world. Got a handful of questions. I think this is a total of 50. Probably not gonna go through all of them. Thank you to Miss Lindsay McMahon. She's also part of our cohort. So
we get these questions all the time.
More than we would like. The first one is, who uses sport consultants or mental performance consultants? You first. You first. You're the guest.
In my opinion, anybody, literally anybody. I know we usually tend to talk more about athlete performers in our work setting, but it can also be any type of artist, any type of person who does public speaking, anybody who's a student. Like, you're performing as a student right now. You get graded, you have to sit down and write papers and do work. So I feel like anybody could use a mental skills or mental performance consultant.
It doesn't just have to be sports. That's why the name is a mental performance consultant. It's not specifically the sport one. The second one is, what licenses or certificates do you need to become a certified MPC?
To be qualified and to really use the title of MPC, we should be having our master's in performance consulting. But there's also additional certifications that you can get, like through ASP, I believe. Association of Applied Sports Psychology. That's what it is. She said, don't look at me.
If you're gonna be a certified mental performance consultant, then you have to work towards your CMPC, and every state has different rules and like laws for it. I believe Illinois is about 1,000 hours.
Yeah.
And that's including supervision, it's including observation hours, direct client hours, indirect client hours. It's a lot. Yeah, like Krystal said, it's just the master's degree minimum.
But if you would like to, you could take it to another level and get your doctorate, in which you would be Dr. Kate or Dr. Chris. We're not there yet.
Oh no, not quite. We're still struggling to get the master's. So what's the difference between an MPC and a CMHC? MPC, mental performance consultant, and CMHC, clinical mental health counselor. Clinical mental health is something completely different than performance consulting. Clinical mental health is when you have clients that have like capital D depression, like they are actually clinically diagnosed with certain disorders.
CMHC were counselors are people who help you manage any type of external stimuli that impacts your life, but MPC only helps with external factors that might impact that direct performance.
How does an MPC help assess an athlete's mental strengths or weaknesses?
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
Lindsay stumping us over here. Having those strengths present at the beginning is awesome, but I think in our line of work, we are focusing on the weaknesses because we're trying to build those weaknesses to also be strengths.
So her last question was, what happens in a consulting session? Or it depends.
Our favorite phrase, it depends. So I think a big part of this is also recognizing your time slot. You have to be conscious of like how much time you have with a client, because you could have a session that'll be 15 minutes, you could have a session that'll be an hour.
If you're hired on to work for an hour, that's gonna be completely different with your planning and what the session's gonna look like. You're gonna have a lot more education, you're gonna have a lot more time for practice, you're gonna have a lot more time for debrief.
Also, like the amount of times that you spend with them for a week, like if you're only going to be with them for once a week, you're trying to make the best out of however long your session is. If you're gonna be meeting with them 5 days out of the week, you know, one day can be used for feedback, one day could be used for practice, one day could be used for observations or something like that. It really all depends.
Also, that's really frustrating for us because we have questions in class about like what if a client has this or what happens in this situation. It depends.
I wish we had like a sign that we could just post up. Like, it depends.
Because this isn't a very common major, what specifically caught your eye about this major?
First of all, there's not many programs in our area that cover this type of degree. I have a huge passion for sports. I've been in sports all my life. I watch sports consistently. I also love the mental health field. Like I've been working in the mental health field now for almost 4 years. I don't think people realize how many people actually deal with mental health issues on a daily basis. And it doesn't have to be extreme. It doesn't have to be diagnosable, but it is important.
I'm actually the opposite. I didn't care too much about sports, but I cared a lot about like the athlete. The sport doesn't matter if the athlete isn't gonna perform well. You can't do anything without your brain or without your mind. I don't need to know all the stats or anything about a person. I care more about like what they can do and what their ability is. So one of the common questions is, how can you help me not to suck?
I ask myself that question every day. I have like, we're from Chicago. I have a big diehard Cubs fan, and I have a lot of Joe Madden shirts that say try not to suck. And you know, I think I don't realize how much of that was meant to be with mental skills associated to it. Answering the question, how can you help me not suck? There's not really a direct answer. Again, it depends. I wish I had that sign.
There it is, right here. Just like the way that they ask that is just so negative. It's not that you suck, it's there's something that's blocking you. You're having a roadblock, and our goal is to try to help you overcome that roadblock.
A lot of times it's really just about the way you approach it and the reaction that you have.
Okay, so here's an example of like what a parent would maybe come in with. My son, a football player, is afraid of getting hit when he plays against bigger opponents. What can I do about that? It's not quite about what you can do as the parent. It's all about the approach that your son has towards playing against those kinds of opponents, right?
I feel like there's a lot of techniques that we can use, the approach that they want to take with it and what's going to work best for them. You know, we can do a lot of visual imagery. Yeah, imagery is a huge thing for some people. It's also about focusing on the future and what's coming at you and how you might be able to change some of those feelings in the moment, so that way it's not about the fear that you're having, it's about the reaction after.
That's beautifully said.
Oh my God, thank you.
I always start out strong and then I have a dip in performance at the middle of the semester. How do I avoid that?
Relatable.
This one isn't specifically just about sport. It's all about motivation at that point, keeping your motivation up.
I know one thing that I really like to focus on is like having someone tell me what is something that they've accomplished in the past, or like something similar, and how, you know, they've done all of these things before, so why can't they overcome this now? Like, it's just another step in the road. I try to kind of rephrase it that way.
So in my last video, I talked a lot about mental health with the Filipino community, so I want to hear your thoughts with your culture. So what are some common views within your culture regarding to mental health?
I am Mexican American. I'm like a second generation here in Chicago. Most of my family's here, which is awesome. But there's definitely a stigma, and that I have noticed, and that a lot of people in my family have noticed, towards mental health. And I think that's very common amongst the LatinX community as a whole. Unfortunately, a lot of the views that I see amongst LatinX communities in terms of mental health is not so great, but we're turning it around slowly. My unique factor of speaking Spanish and how being able to provide this service in a different language is also a huge benefit for that community.
Do older generations in the Latinx community like look down on mental health?
I have parents who are like pretty open-minded, which I appreciate very much, and they're like growing with the times. But there are certain individuals who will be like, oh, that's not a real thing, or like, you don't need, like, sometimes, I'm not even kidding, some Latinx people are like, you don't even have to go to the doctor, hold on. Let me do some home remedies real quick.
Yeah,
so like, if they think that going to get medical help is so not necessary, like imagine getting mental health help.
How is the field of sports psychology unique as compared to other realms of psychology?
Ooh.
Just general psychology doesn't focus on your performance, it's just talking about your mental health, but sports psychology is specifically with your performance, whether that be within sport or just general non-sport. If I wanted to study sports psychology or something similar, but my school doesn't offer it, are there other fields, classes that I could take to gain a better understanding for the field? lot of schools don't offer anything, and truthfully, there's not a lot of classes that really go with it because you just have to have a degree. For your bachelor's, you just have any bachelor's degree. You don't have to specifically have one for kinesiology or psych. Part of the reason why we're making these videos is to start spreading awareness that it's not a common field that people are really aware of, but it is a field that people, I feel, are gonna be a lot more interested in. There's no like sport class. It would be really helpful to take some psychology courses, but you're not gonna find a class that's like, let's talk about performance, let's talk about sport. So if I wanna help people and I can't decide whether I wanna study psychology or counseling, how would you suggest making the right decision? How do I know which field would be better for me?
That lies a little bit more on you, honestly. You kind of got to do your research, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. Like even if that research is just talking to people, like to me or Kate, DM us, talk to us, comment on us.
Psychology is a huge umbrella to so many other things, and counseling is within that. So I think that if you want to do something with psychology, my first thing would be figure out whether or not you want to be applied and like practicing out on the field, or if you want to do the research. Save yourself time in the future by doing that research now. You're gonna find that you love researching information when it's about stuff that you feel targets yourself.
You don't want to go into a degree or go into school and realize, you know what, this isn't really what I wanted to do, this isn't really fun for me. Like, that's not going to be fun for anybody. Good luck telling your parents that, because my parents wouldn't take that.
No. We got a question asking, do you have a student organization? Yes, we are both involved with ASHA, and that's the Adler Sport and Health Association. I just have to say, our president, one of the coolest people that I've ever met. He's pro in baseball. Just
Cincinnati Reds.
amazing, incredible person. Like
huge shout out to Connor.
So you come in and do a talk. Will the athletes then be all fixed? No, right?
We're trying to work ourselves out of a job.
Yay! That's it. That's pretty much all we really have today. We could honestly go on for like another hour or two with all the rest of the questions. Please go and support Krystal, Coach Chris. Oh, your Twitter. Your Twitter too.
I'm in the Twitter world now. But thank you for having me.
No, thank you for coming. If you want, go and support her, support me. If you feel like subscribing, do so. Don't feel obligated, I completely understand. You can follow her on Instagram. You can also follow me on Instagram. My handle is Intricate. Otherwise, I'll see you next week for another video. Oh, this is going up on Thanksgiving, so happy Thanksgiving.
Happy
if you
Thanksgiving,
celebrate
everyone.
Thanksgiving.
Stay healthy, stay safe.
Thank you, bye.